Joy here, and welcome to another episode of Knauthentic. Topic of the day, plant-based meals. If you're tuning in from Substack, be sure to check out today's poll. 1. Before I dive into the topic of the day, in case you're new here, I'm an omnivore. With that said, I'm not a big meat eater in comparison to most people on the SAD. For a while in my college days, I was vegetarian, which allows for consuming eggs and dairy, with vegetables being the bulk of your meals. Back then, it was easier to stick to the SAD, but not because I missed eating meat. Today, however, I eat meat because economically, it's a better fit for me and my husband. We need adequate sources of protein to accompany my highly restricted diet, which my husband also follows at home because we don't have the means to maintain two different diets. 2, so, why am I talking about plant based meals? Well, for my health and for personal preference, it's important for me to consume more vegetables. At this point in my life, also for health reasons, I'm completely dairy free, except for when I can't stop someone from putting butter on my food at a restaurant. Sometimes they will accommodate a request to use olive oil, but it is a gamble. I still eat eggs, and but I've started to look into other ways to replace them when I want to be even more heart healthy and eliminate cholesterol. Flax eggs are my go-to for many baked treats, but they are also a good source of fiber in my gluten-free turkey meatballs. While most of the world went crazy over protein in 2025, I always knew I needed a balance between carbs, fiber, protein, and nutrients. So, while I can and will eat meat, I can also not eat meat and still meet all of my nutritional goals while enjoying the food I eat. 3, did you know that you don't have to be vegan to eat tofu? Only in the US, I think, does tofu take a backseat to the animal based proteins. Most places around the world recognize tofu and other beans and lentils as viable sources of protein, along with seafood and whatever meats they consume. They don't choose between them, but instead incorporate all of them into their diets. One of the ways I increase my nutrient and veggie intake is by adding plant based substitutions where I can. I don't need to use a flax egg in my meatballs, but I can. I don't need to use a plant based milk in a pudding mix, but I can. And I don't need to add vegetable puree to my gravy, but I can. And they all taste good. I can also simply have a plant based meal from time to time simply because I can. Miso soup is one of my favorite plant based meals to have. In some restaurants, the miso is served with paper thin slices of mushroom, which really serves as more of a garnish. But sometimes there are cubes of tofu, which serve the same purpose. Miso soup isn't usually meant to be a meal, rather, a meal starter or a comfort for when someone's feeling unwell. The miso itself is fermented soy, so by itself, it already contains vital nutrients for your gut microbiome and some protein. When I make it for myself as an individual meal, I do make a few adjustments that go far beyond the traditional. So now let's talk about how I make a quick miso soup. Be sure to visit my Authentic YouTube channel if you want to see the short. Step-by-step instructions. 1, put water in a tea kettle or heat it in the microwave to your desired hotness. 2, in a large cup or small bowl, add half a teaspoon of ground ginger and half a teaspoon of black pepper. You could substitute these for whatever seasonings suit you best. 3, you want to add in half up to 1 teaspoon of wakame. You could also use nori in a pinch, but make sure you don't use too much wakame because it will expand. 4, then add 1 teaspoon of either soy sauce, tamari, or coconut aminos, depending upon how much soy you want to consume. 5, Pour in 1 cup of hot water over the collected ingredients that are already in the cup or the bowl. To add bulk to the meal, you're going to chop 1/8 up to 1/4 of a cup of mushrooms or tofu. I used fava bean tofu in the video, but you could add chicken or something else if that suits you better. 7, you want to cover and let this sit for 3 to 5 minutes before adding a teaspoon of either red or white miso paste through a mesh strainer so that it can incorporate without clumping and it'll keep the fermentation alive. 8, you want to let it sit for about another 1 or 2 minutes and then it'll be ready to eat. The whole point of not having it boiling hot when you add the miso is that we want to keep that fermentation alive. Question: do you prefer tofu or mushrooms in your miso soup? I'd love to know. I personally enjoy both. If you or someone you know has a health or food journey story or recipe you think others might benefit from, please visit my Be Featured links on social media to share your story in the manner that suits you best. Until next time, stay safe, eat well, and be blessed. Knauthentic Season 1, Episode 13, starring Toy Thomas, featuring no one else at this time. Topics discussed: plant-based meals, quick miso soup, mushrooms versus tofu. Produced by Toy Thomas in association with the Toy Box of Words and Lake Carnival. Directed by Toinette Toy Thomas. Thanks again to the Knauthentic community on Substack, YouTube, and wherever you can hear this podcast. This is all for you.